everyone, welcome to Mommy in Japan. My name is Megan and today we're going to be talking about the first trimester of pregnancy in Japan. Today's topics we're going to cover are pregnancy tests, when to go to the doctor, symptoms and Japan's view on early pregnancy, doctor's appointments, any necessary paperwork you may need, health insurance, and advice, tips and tricks that I've picked up. Now, I'm currently pregnant with my second child. I'm in my third trimester. I'm currently 29 weeks pregnant, so that puts me about my 7th to 8th month, depending whose calendar you're looking at. The first important thing to note is that Japan follows the 10-month pregnancy calendar versus America that follows the 9-month pregnancy calendar. So in Japan, I would be 8 months pregnant, but in America, I would be 7 months pregnant. So let's talk about pregnancy tests. Pregnancy tests are very easy to find here. You can find them at any of your local drugstores. All of the pregnancy tests that I've come across are a simple pee on a stick, but you have to wait 7 days after your missed period unless you go and talk to a pharmacist or order from Amazon online, which have the rapid results tests available. Some brands that you can find are Clear Blue. There were some other brands that were all written in English, so it was actually fairly easy to follow along. Your second option for pregnancy testing is going to the doctor's office. If you're looking for pregnancy tests in a drugstore, or the word you are looking for is ninshin kensa yaku or ninshin testo. You can usually find the test located with the sexual health item. Now, your second option of pregnancy testing is going to the doctor's office. The doctor's offices that you will be looking for are the Sanfujinka, or obstetrician gynecology, or ladies clinic. If you have the doctor's office for pregnancy testing, if you've been there before, you just show them your reception card. You tell them that you think you might be pregnant. Usually you have to fill out some paperwork that says when your last period was, why you think you might be pregnant, any signs or symptoms, and you give it to the receptionist, and then you go through the appointment. Now, if you haven't been to this office before, you have to first receive a reception card. Now, this takes some time. I would recommend scheduling at least 2 to 3 hours to wait, since your first appointment, you usually cannot schedule a time. So you're gonna go in, they're going to ask why you're there. You're going to say, I think I'm pregnant. It's my first time here. And you have to fill out your patient history. And then you have to fill out information about when your last period was. So it's kind of the same paperwork you would have filled out if you've been there before. Then you will receive your patient card. Now, after you receive your patient card, or if you've already had your patient card, you're going to have to go and pee in a cup for a urine test that will test your HCG, or the pregnancy hormone. And then after that, you will generally go and you'll either first meet with the doctor to talk about why you think you're pregnant. The doctor sometimes will do this part of the meeting first, or they might just jump straight into doing an internal ultrasound. So they like to confirm. At the same time, they can check to see if there's another reason why maybe you've missed your period or why you're having these symptoms. Next topic is, when do you see the doctor? Now, there's two answers. Short answer is 6 to 8 weeks. Especially if you're a first-time mom, you have a history of miscarriages or any other medical abnormalities, I definitely recommend going a little bit earlier, but really not before 6 weeks. Reasons why are, before 6 weeks, you can't really see much of anything. They're only really able to confirm your HCG levels, and while they may be able to see the embryo, they can't confirm the heartbeat at this point, and it gets really expensive the earlier you go in because pregnancy-related costs are not covered by the National Health Insurance, so every appointment is a bit more expensive than, say, a regular doctor's appointment. So I do recommend 6 to 8 weeks. Now, the long answer, again, first-time moms, medical complications, history of miscarriages, history of ectopic pregnancies, definitely go in 6 to 8 weeks. If you're a second, third, fourth, fifth time mom, definitely wait a bit longer. It'll save you some money and a headache of scheduling the tests. And it's nice because when you actually go in to see your baby, you actually can see more than, just the tiny little round embryo that really doesn't do much. So after you go in for your appointment and your pregnancy has been confirmed by the doctor, then all you have to do is basically schedule your next appointment for 2 weeks later. Depending when you go in, if you go in later, so say you go in at about 8 weeks, usually before 10 weeks, they would like you to go into your local health center to go get the necessary paperwork, which we will dive into later. Now, let's talk a bit more about the doctor's visits after the first visit. So, the first trimester in Japan is from 0 to 15 weeks. During that time, you will have to see the doctor every 2 weeks, which can get costly because, as I mentioned before, prenatal care is not covered by the National Health Insurance. For every prenatal checkup, you must take your health card, your reception ticket or appointment card. You'll get it from your hospital. And then later on in your pregnancy, you will need to take your mother-child handbook. We'll talk about that a bit. At every checkup, they're going to test 3 things. They're going to check your weight and your blood pressure. These are usually done by yourself. They will usually have a little station set up. I can show you. This is my little check-in card. So you just basically put your arm in, push the button, it'll print it out, and then you write your weight at the bottom. And then you will do a urinalysis. So you go to the bathroom, you write your name on a cup, you pee in the cup, put it in a cupboard, and then you go wait in reception until your name is called. Always do that as soon as you get there. The faster you get your urinalysis done, the faster you get to see the doctor. Now, around between week 10 to 14, it depends on the hospital. Every hospital is different. You have to go through a series of blood tests, and you'll go through a cervix cancer check that also will double as a pap smear. They do all the testing at the same time. The blood testing covers things like they will check for anemia, your blood sugar, they check your blood type. Even if it's your second pregnancy, they will still check your blood type again, which is silly, but I mean, they're there. They're also going to check for HIV, chlamydia, and syphilis. And so all of this, depending where you live, each prefecture or city has different funding available for prenatal checkups. So depending where you live, these tests could be very, very expensive. They could be free. It also depends on the hospital. The first time I did the testing, it cost me, I believe, $200, so 20,000 yen, where the second time I did it was about $60 or 6,000 yen. So it really depends on the hospital, it depends on your city. So just be aware that some of the appointments can be expensive, and you can generally ask your hospital before the date of that checkup how much it's going to cost. Also, at every appointment, they're going to do an internal ultrasound, especially in the first trimester. When they switch to external, again, depends on the hospital. So my first hospital, they did internal ultrasounds up until 16 weeks. After that, they switched to external ultrasounds, which was nice. And same with my second hospital I went to, where they did the same. It was internal for until 20 weeks or until 16 weeks, and then from 20 weeks on, it was external. So first trimester is from 0 weeks to 15 weeks. You go every 2 weeks for your appointments. Once you hit 16 weeks, your appointments go from 1 appointment every 2 weeks to 1 appointment every 4 weeks, which is a bit nicer because you're not having to go there every week, every couple weeks, and it saves you a little bit of money. Now, my tip for appointments is to always try and go the same date and the same time if possible. It helps your doctors get more accurate readings for your testing if they're able to control, the dates and times, versus if you're coming in, Monday morning, Friday at night. It keeps things more regular. Also, a tip for doctor's visits. So when you're doing internal ultrasounds, I recommend, if possible, wearing a skirt or a dress, especially because the internal ultrasounds, you have to sit in the gyno chair, which I will insert a picture of. Now, in the gyno chair, you will typically have to remove your underwear, and if you're wearing pants, you have to remove your pants. Now, if you're wearing a skirt, all you have to do is pull your skirt up, remove your underwear, which is a lot easier to manage than, underwear and pants. So definitely wear a skirt or a dress. But once you start going and having your external ultrasounds, definitely switch back to pants or a skirt and shirt, because lifting your dress up at the doctor's office the whole way up so everyone can see your bottoms is a little bit embarrassing. It's not embarrassing. I'm sure the doctors have seen it before and it's happened before, but for me, I prefer to, keep as much covered as I can. I don't want to have to, flash my underwear to the doctors all the time. So definitely keep that in mind when going to your visits. Now, before I mentioned the Mother-Child Handbook. Now, what is the Mother-Child Handbook? How do I get one? Why do I need it? Let me show you. This is my Mother-Child Handbook. I don't know if you can see it. All right. It is a book that basically helps doctors keep track of your pregnancy, and then it actually also continues all the way up until the child is 6 years old. It has information regarding your weight, your blood tests, any abnormalities during pregnancy, and then after that, once the child is born, they go through regular checkups. At first, it's every, I believe, 2 months. 2 months in the first year, and then after that, it's every half year, and then it's every year as they grow older. It also has a lot of good information regarding your city's local doctor's offices, medical centers, daycares, just a lot of really good information. It also has really good information about pregnancy and about raising a newborn. It even has weight charts and height charts. It also has this handy dandy poop guide for, the newborn stage. So it's really good. And then it has, I have covers in mine. So it has these little pockets. So I keep all the important paperwork that I receive from my hospitals. And then it also has the information of the parents, which I find is really good, and it's really helpful because I am awful at record keeping. So everything I know about my child, about what's happened when, is in this book. Now, when you go and get your Mother-Child Handbook, you will also be given a very cute maternity badge. So this is mine. You can hang it on your purse, your backpack, diaper bag, whatever you have. It basically allows you, so if you take the trains daily or at all, it allows you to sit in priority seating, because when you're pregnant, you should reduce how long you're standing for. So if you're riding on the train for, an hour, however long, you need a chance to sit. That's what this is good for. So I've had experiences at the grocery store where the grocery store clerk will carry my basket for me to where you package your own groceries, and just for various things like that. Lots of people will give you, will let you go first in line, just, some common courtesies we don't necessarily always find in the West when it comes to pregnant women, especially in the early stages when you're not necessarily showing, but you may have, anemia, you may have really bad morning sickness where you're dizzy all the time, and going grocery shopping for 10 minutes is enough to, knock you off your feet. So these are really, really nice. I really, really like them. And they're very cute. They come in cute designs. I've seen some with cute little borders, just great little badges. You also can receive, so if you drive in Japan, you can receive this sticker. And you can put this sticker on your car, and it allows you to park in priority parking. I really like the sticker. You can also ask for more. So the first time I was pregnant, we had it on my car and my husband's car, and I believe we had a backup one we had a third car at the time, and so I had asked for extra stickers, and she just gave me a handful of stickers. So this time though, I haven't put it on my car yet, and I don't know why, but my husband still has his pregnancy sticker from my first time, so at least one car is covered. Another thing you'll receive from the health center when you get your Mother-Child Handbook is depending where you live, is a coupon book. Now, let's see. So depending where you live, certain cities and towns and whatnot have different regulations, have different procedures. My city, you get these coupons and you have to fill them out every single time you go in. They're very, very annoying because first of all, it's very tiny, and it's not a lot of information. It's your name, your address, your phone number, your due date, and whatnot. However, they're very important because they save you a lot of money. As you can see, so this coupon is for a regular checkup, and it's for $50, 5,000 yen. And there's other ones that are for even more. When they do all your blood work and testing and stuff, you get coupons for $80 or, different costs. So you always need to have these. These are super, super important. They're worth a lot of money. So don't lose them. Also in Japan, I don't know if this is every city or not, but I received a coupon for a free dental visit. So they typically want you to go before 28 weeks, I believe, and I still haven't gone yet because laying on your back, it's really, really hard. But at the health checkup, it's just they look in your mouth, they tell you if there's any concerns, and then you can book up any follow-up appointments. So if you need a cleaning, if you need any treatment or anything that they can do while you're pregnant, a lot of times they'll ask you to come back after your baby is born. Also, a note about the Mother-Child Handbook is that it comes in multiple languages. Now, I have the Japanese version, and I actually do have the English version somewhere. I just don't know where I put it. I don't like the English version because it's a lot bigger. So this book is fairly small. It's about the size of a passport, where the English version is a lot bigger. It's about this much bigger, and it doesn't really fit into anything. They don't have the covers for it, so you don't get the pockets, and it's just it's a bit more inconvenient. The English version or the other languages are really good if you don't speak a lot of Japanese, but I speak quite a bit of Japanese and I really want to be able to understand everything, so that's why I went with the Japanese version for my Mother-Child Handbook. But you can ask for other languages. I believe there's Philippine languages, there's Chinese, Spanish. I believe there's 6 to 8 languages, so just, ask your healthcare center and they should be able to help you out. So we're going to talk about symptoms and how they were dealt with, but this is all from my experience, mostly because everybody's different, all doctors are different, hospitals, centers are different. So first of all, my symptoms. So my first and my second pregnancy, I had really bad nausea, vomiting. I couldn't keep anything down my first pregnancy. My second pregnancy was a little bit better. I was able to fight off some of the nausea by starting smaller meals earlier and just constantly eating, but only eating little bits. So I would be sitting there eating like a whole cucumber, but that would take me 2 hours to just, keep munching. It doesn't have to be a cucumber, but you get the idea. I had really bad cramps. It felt like I was having my period, but I didn't have any bleeding. I know some people do get light spotting, especially during implantation. So if it's around your period and you only get a couple light spots, or it's very, very, very light, I always recommend getting a pregnancy test just to be safe. I know some people didn't find out they were pregnant until they were months down the road, and they've been drinking and smoking and whatever else, because they thought they had their period, but it was actually just implantation bleeding. And so always get a test done if you miss your period, even if your period is way different than what it was, a couple months before. Just be safe. So I had really, really bad cramps. So I actually didn't think I was pregnant the second time. So the first time I got pregnant, I kind of figured, like, I had kind of known I was pregnant beforehand, if that makes sense. The second time I got pregnant, I had no idea. I just thought my period was coming. Then it never came, and I was just, okay, I gotta get a test. And well, here we are. I also had a really sore chest. Like, I had to wear a bra all the time because if I didn't wear a bra, my nipples were gonna fall off. It was just really bad. And especially now with a toddler, like, so painful because she would jump on me all the time and she really likes to cuddle and she's very affectionate, but she's very rammy. So, very, very painful. Also in the first trimester, I had to pee a lot. A lot. It's due to your hormones, so it's completely normal. And so that was also another big indication that I thought I might have been pregnant. I was constantly having to go pee, and sometimes it was only just like a tiny, tiny amount. It was just, you had to go. I also had, so my first trimester, I had really bad heartburn due to, again, hormones. And then the other symptom I had was constipation. Again, relaxin', nothing works properly when you are pregnant. We'll leave it at that. Nothing works properly. Now, in my experience, so I would go to the doctor and they always ask, like, how are you feeling? What are your symptoms? So for nausea and vomiting, they really were useless. I've seen 2 different doctors during the first trimester of my pregnancies, and both times they're just said, there's nothing we can do. You need to push through it. The first doctor I saw didn't even offer me any advice. He was just like, too bad, so sad. If you can't eat, you have to come in the hospital. And I didn't want to do that, especially with him, because he was just not a nice doctor. With my second doctor, he at least offered me a little bit of advice. You know, he introduced the whole eat smaller meals and just keep constantly eating, keeping your blood sugar up. And then he also would say, like, don't drink a lot of water when you eat. Like, just, you know, keep things smaller amounts but more times, basically, was what he would tell me. Finally, after the first trimester is finished, he was able to give me some medicine, but a lot of doctors here are very hesitant to give you any medication, especially in the first trimester. So again, the only medicine I received in the first trimester was for heartburn and for constipation. Both of those medications were wonderful. They worked really well. They worked fast. They did their job. So for pregnancy, for nausea medication, there's nothing for the first trimester. So for heartburn, there was no over-the-counter medications. I could only find a few, and they weren't very good. There's no Tums. There's the antacids they have here, again, are really weak, really expensive. Go to the doctor. It's cheaper that way. And then same with constipation. I didn't look too much in the pharmacy because I was already at the doctor's. But at the doctor's, like, he had the constipation medication at the hospital, so I didn't actually have to go to the drugstore to pick it up. He was able to just give it to me there, which was really, really nice. But yeah, first trimester, they won't give you anything. So if you get a cold, if you have a headache, if you have any muscle pain, anything, they won't give you any medication. So I definitely recommend, like, as soon as you find out you're pregnant, if you can get a family member to send you some medication that you're comfortable with, that's safe for pregnancy from your home country, you'll go a lot further than, you know, trying to find anything here. If you don't have anybody at home, definitely look online on Amazon. There's also iHerb. They have lots of different options for medications that you can easily buy and have shipped to Japan. It just takes a little bit longer than, you know, if you were able to go to the pharmacy yourself and pick it up. Now, we're going to talk quickly about Japan's attitude towards early pregnancy. Now, the first thing is many women in Japan still face maternal harassment in the workplace. So a lot of women keep their pregnancies quiet until at least 20 weeks. It depends on where you're working or who you're working with. So with my first job, I was working at an elementary school as an English teacher, and I had to let my principal and my school nurse know fairly early on when I was pregnant. I think about 10 weeks pregnant, because my morning sickness was so bad, and I was just calling in, at least once a week. It made me feel like I looked bad, but I was puking all day long. I couldn't eat anything. So again, I would rather stay home and be sick than come to work, get sick, and have to go home and have all the rumors going around. So it depends on your work. My second job, I waited a bit longer until I was in my second trimester, but even then, my bosses waited until I was 20 weeks to tell everybody else, even though I had told them it was okay to tell everyone, because I carry very far forwards when I'm pregnant, so I start showing very early. So I was already showing when I told them, but of course at that point it just looked like I gained a few pounds, not, pregnant. Depending on your workplace, it's better to keep things quiet, but I mean, if you have serious complications like, morning sickness is bad, you've got bleeding, you've got, any other medical symptoms that your doctor is concerned about or has warned you about, definitely talk to somebody, even if it's, just the principal and the nurse or your direct supervisor. Like, definitely talk to somebody, let them know, because if something goes wrong, right? And, the ambulance comes and they're like, oh, is she pregnant? And they're like, well, we don't know. It's good to have somebody in your corner for that support, especially because some people might start figuring it out, putting two and two together, and just kind of, start gossiping. Japan is very gossipy, so, it's good to have the support. Japan has a very gambare attitude regarding symptoms when you're pregnant. Again, with the no over-the-counter medicine or lack of over-the-counter medicine, lack of medicine in the first trimester, and just very much, keep quiet and push on kind of attitude versus, hey, this is a critical time in pregnancy, let's help this person, especially because the first trimester is so difficult for a lot of people. You need to keep that in mind while you're here, is that a lot of places won't give you a lot of support. So it's really important to have your own support system, whether it's your husband, your family, some friends. We'll dive more into support systems in a bit. Now, this is a big topic, especially when it comes to Japanese expectations, and it is to do with your weight. The first hospital I ever went to when I was pregnant, they straight up told me that they would not let me deliver or give birth at their hospital if I weighed more than 80 kilograms. Now, I went into the hospital weighing about 70 kilograms. Now, this was after a year. I had broken my ankle and I couldn't walk for 6 months. Was going through rehabilitation, had moved to a new country. So I had put on a lot more weight. Now, I also have a lot of muscle weight due to my body makeup. I produce higher levels of testosterone due to, I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, so I produce higher levels of testosterone, which also increases muscle mass. At the time, you would have looked at me, you wouldn't have thought I weighed that much, but the scale does not differentiate between fat and muscle or bone or water. I also retain water really bad. So it was just all of these things adding up, and the doctor was basically, if you gain any more weight, you can't have your baby here. Now, to see it from the doctor's point of view, for an average Japanese woman to weigh 80 kilograms, that Japanese woman is going to be severely medically compromised. Japanese people are typically smaller, they're smaller boned, and the higher their body fat percentage is, the higher risks they have in pregnancy and just in life. So from his perspective, I get it, but you also need to look at your patient. You need to look at your patient's body. If you look at a patient's body and see, hey, the scale says you're 70 kilograms, but you're super in shape, obviously there's, some discrepancies that you can't just look at the scale. However, in Japan, a lot of places haven't caught up with this idea yet that this number on the scale is not accurate. So anyways, Japan is very, very weight focused. And you can see it everywhere in their daily marketing products, advertisements on TV, on YouTube, whatever. Everything's centered about weight. But the second doctor I went to, he was amazing. He's so good. He actually studied for a bit, I believe, in Alaska. So he spoke some English as well, which was a relief. But he also understood, wait, like when I had gone to him, I was at the breaking point. My first doctor was so awful. So when I went to go see him, I was just like, listen, this other doctor has been hounding me about my weight gain, my entire pregnancy, and he's just, if you weigh 80 kilograms, if you weigh 80 kilograms, if you weigh 80 kilograms, kind of thing, and just kept going on and on and on about this. And of course, as someone who is still recovering from a traumatic bone break and an entire year's worth of rehabilitation, like, you know, it was a lot. It was just a lot. And the whole process, right, of being pregnant, so you're hormonal and pregnant in a country you don't speak the language. And then at the time, I don't know why, but when I had first gone to see him, I had asked if I could bring my mother-in-law, who speaks English and Japanese. And then when we went there, the next time we went there, he told me not to bring her back. So then I didn't have any support at all going to this doctor who was just very, very, in my opinion, I feel he was very, very abusive, and just not supportive at all emotionally, or all questions he would shut down. He wouldn't even answer them. If you can, shop around for different doctors. There's different doctors who have different expectations for weight. Some doctors keep up with, you know, the current medical information, where others, like my first doctor, are stuck in 1930 and have no idea what's going on and are just awful. Japan's attitude on weight is typically don't gain any weight or gain very, very minimal weight. But there are some doctors in Japan who are really, really wonderful and who, yes, they'll look at the number on the scale, but it's not to shame you or anything. It's to keep an eye on more serious issues like preeclampsia, or, you know, if something's going on with your body or the baby. So if you're going to a doctor who makes you uncomfortable about your weight, go somewhere else. Just don't put yourself through that, because I put myself through it for 20 plus weeks, and literally every time I would go see this doctor, I would leave in tears because he was so awful, and it was just not worth it. It really, really ruined my first pregnancy, that experience. So for our last point, I'm going to share some advice and tips and tricks that I've picked up with my 2 pregnancies. My first tip is to find a support system. So if you can, I definitely recommend, you know, make sure that you and your husband are always communicating, and that if he's able to help you out, like, have him help you out as much as possible. If you have a good relationship with his family, you know, have your mother-in-law help. She's been through this, right? She's done all this before. So have your mother-in-law help you out. There's also a lot of online support group. The number 1 support group I know of is Tokyo Mothers Group, and you don't have to live in Tokyo. There's members from all across Japan. It's just a really, really good resource. I know there's access to doulas or information on this Facebook group, and there's other Facebook groups as well. So if you live in the Kansai region or the Kanto region, or even your prefecture, just search Prefecture Mothers Group or your Prefecture Parenting Group. Mothers and fathers can join. You can also join groups back in your home country. So, you know, if you have questions about specific things, they can also give you advice on, you know, America will do things a different way, Canada will do things a different way, Australia. So You just, what you're comfortable with. You also might be lucky and you might find somebody who lives close to you, another foreigner. I was very, very lucky because I met somebody who was moving to my city, which I live in the middle of nowhere, so was very, very lucky. And we were both pregnant at the same time and only 1 month apart. So it's been really nice. It's been really nice to have that support. Now that I'm pregnant with my second child, I know I can count on her for help if I need help with my first child, if there's an emergency or something happens and I don't have anybody else around. My second tip is join parenting classes in your area. Now they may all be in Japanese, but you live in Japan. They might actually surprise you, and there might be other foreigners, or there might be people who want to study English or are trying to study English, so it might be good practice for the both of you. But it's nice because a lot of the people who are going to those classes will be about the same timeline as you. You can also ask them about the hospital they're visiting or the doctors they're seeing. So if you haven't decided on a hospital yet that you like, or doctor that you like, you can always ask them questions. It's also nice because you get the support and the information that's localized to your area. Now, parenting classes are usually offered at your local health center. They also can be offered by your hospital. And I found the parenting classes, they're really good, especially for fathers. Parenting classes are really good, especially if you have not had a lot of exposure to newborns or young kids. It was really good for a refresher course as well for me. I've had experience taking care of kids and adults with special needs, so a lot of diaper changing, bathing, medication, and just a lot of stuff that I think is common sense. A lot of people don't know, especially a lot of Japanese men, because a lot of men still believe that women will take care of all of the child's needs while the man goes to work. However, as times are changing, a lot of women are entering the workforce and husbands are staying at home, or partners are staying at home. And so the need for parenting classes is becoming a lot more necessary. And so a lot of men are becoming more active in parenting roles, which is really nice to see. But there's still a lot of men who need to go to parenting classes to see, at least to understand what their wives are going through or partners are going through in raising child and through labor and pregnancy. Now, some more advice I have is, again, as I said before, over-the-counter medication from doctors, especially in the first trimester, is limited, almost 0 to none. So if you have any medications that you are familiar with, that you prefer, that's safe for pregnancy from your home countries, please get them delivered. It's going to help. Even if you don't have any symptoms yet, I think Tums or an antacid that you are comfortable with. If there's allergy medicine, I have really, really bad seasonal allergies, so it also helps if you end up having a cold. In Japan, they won't give you cold medicine, and there's not a lot of cold medicines that you can take while you're pregnant, but allergy medicine acts fairly similar to cold medicine, so it does help a bit in relieving some symptoms, especially, if you're in a pinch. It's the middle of the night, you're trying to sleep, and you can't stop coughing or you have a runny nose. Take an allergy tablet until you can get to the doctor. My other piece of advice is when you go to the doctor, if you have any symptoms, so if you're nauseous, if you have heartburn, or you're constipated, or something's wrong, complain a lot, almost over complain, because a lot of the doctors, if they don't think your symptoms are serious or they're just, a minor inconvenience, they're not going to do anything. And you shouldn't have to spend your pregnancy suffering. Pregnancy is hard enough as it is, let alone all of these added symptoms and the doctor's not believing you. So definitely over complain. If you've had, heartburn for a couple days. Oh, I've had heartburn for like 2 weeks now and it's so bad. I'm not sleeping. I haven't slept in 3 days. Play it up a little bit. I also will say, adult diapers are your friend, or even just like pad or liner, super absorbent, especially at night, because in the first trimester, you have to pee a lot, and lots of times it's just like a little bit, and you might already have trouble sleeping. So if you have, sleep apnea, or you have insomnia, and then you add on top of it, you have to pee all the time. And if it's, your second or third pregnancy, well, good luck sleeping. It's always an option. I know it's becoming a really popular trend. I know a lot of my friends in Canada were using adult diapers throughout their pregnancies because, especially at night, because they just didn't want to get up for, a teaspoon of pee, right? So it's up to you. I personally have not used them. I use liners and whatnot, but that's more so if I sneeze and pee, because that is also a thing that happens. But, it's some advice that I've received from other fellow moms. If I wasn't waking up all the time throughout the night anyways, I probably would, but I wake up a lot throughout the night because I have a 1-year-old who's always up throughout the night, so I'm up anyways, so I might as well go pee at the same time. But if you have the chance to sleep and just, wear an adult diaper to help you sleep through the night so you don't have to get up, I say all the power to you. And my last tip, I've already mentioned this before, is don't be afraid to shop around for a doctor. There are so many wonderful doctors here, but there's also probably just as many awful doctors. There are doctors who, should have retired about 30 years ago and are still practicing because there's nobody keeping a track on their licenses or their practices. So do with that as you will. You might find some really great doctors in some surprising places. Like I've said, I live in the middle of kind of nowhere, and I found an English-speaking doctor and an English-speaking pediatrician at the same hospital, and they're both so wonderful. They're so good, and they just listen to you and treat you like a person. So with that is my information and advice on the first trimester pregnancy. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.